thank you so much, Matthew and Ari and Alessandro, for inviting me to share some thoughts with you. See, we have a really simple idea that I believe could change the future of humanity and could help transform every human life. So we could make the most of our life on earth and live without suffering. Because human life is suffering. Right?
Yeah.
From start to finish, there's some kind of suffering. And the more I've traveled on this journey, the more I realize almost all our suffering comes from inside us. It's from how our mind reacts to the world. So if you take the scale of the problems that we face in the world right now, mental health is 80%. The US Surgeon General says 76% of companies have individuals who have a mental health problem. Relationship breakdown, 50%. Addiction rates, 10 to 20%. 107,000 deaths in the US from addiction alone, opioid addiction last year. Then you can add gun crime, violence, and even climate change. So we think all these problems are different, you see, but they all begin in our thinking. So if we could go deeper and understand ourselves and how our minds worked, we can prevent these problems and more easily overcome them. Okay, that's the simple idea. The second idea is that this wisdom is in the grasp of every human being. You don't need to be formally educated for it. Like you don't need to be educated to learn to swim. It's a skill. It can be taught to anybody. Right? But if we can begin early with children, we could not only help them meet life's challenges, etc., be mentally healthy and at peace, but we could bring peace to the world. Because if you have peace in yourself, then you have peace in the world. The lack of peace in the world is because there's no peace in the human heart. That's so simple. The other thing we've realized on this journey is the understanding of what's going on in our thinking does all the work of bringing change. Okay, let me explain. I'll give you an example. Say I am jealous, and then my religion or whatever it says I should not be jealous. This is how the mind works. So I'm jealous, and I'm going to try not to be jealous. So I go from here, and I try to not be jealous, but it doesn't work. I try all my life not to be jealous, it doesn't work. Then I feel guilty, I blame myself, or I find a different teacher, and it doesn't work. The human wisdom approach is saying, let go of the ideal. Accept the fact that this is the human mind, the way it's wired, and be curious. What's going on underneath to make us think and feel this way? That's the key question. When you ask that question and you go deeper, you realize, my mind's comparing all the time without my awareness. I'm not aware of it. Right? And the moment I wake up to that, then I start watching it and saying, does it serve me? All this stuff, social media stuff, people doing amazing things, I'm feeling bad. How does it serve me? And then without realizing it, one day I wake up, my mind stopped comparing. I'm free. So the understanding does all the work of bringing change. Now, this is a simple idea, and it's so simple that 7, 8, 9-year-old children get it like that. And I've been working with them in schools. I go to schools, I sit down with them, I talk to them, and I can share lots of videos of my conversations with them. So I'll send you that material, Matthew, and you can share it with your membership. So, for example, I asked a school in a class, I said, how would your life change if you were in charge and your mind only compared itself with others when you needed it to. And this girl at the back, I remember her, she was Afro-Caribbean, soft-spoken. She said, I would be free. Right? Take a problem like climate change. You think, surely kids don't have the answer to climate change. I mean, all the scientists in the world don't have an answer. The politicians in the world don't have an answer. What do kids have an answer? See, we're missing a trick. We think education is about stuffing their heads with what we know. But look at the mess we've made of the world, right? That's what we're teaching them. Do you understand? Instead, if we sat and learned from them. So here's this conversation. It's recorded live. You can watch it, but here's a summary of it. Okay. So I said, what makes you happy? They said, Christmas presents, ice cream, holidays. Okay. And these are 10-year-olds, by the way, Matthew. And I said, okay, how long does the pleasure last? Oh, not long. As soon as I open the present, pleasure's over, I lose interest. As soon as the ice cream finishes, I come back from holiday. I said, what do you feel when the pleasure ends? And they say, I feel restless. I feel bored. I feel empty. I said, what do you need to do next? Well, I need to repeat the pleasure. Right? I need to repeat the pleasure. I said, but how is it different this time? Oh, it needs to be bigger and better. Right? The same holiday won't do, or the same ice cream. It needs to be something bigger toy, whatever. And so I said, fine. That's normal, because kids are beautiful. They are honest, We're not judging them. And the teacher in the class tells me, oh yeah, that applies to me too. I've got 170 handbags. This is a class teacher. I said, sure, great. So I said, what is the impact of this in your families? And the kids say, well, we go into debt. There's no food to eat sometimes because the parents have spent all this money. This is a poor part of England where I'm talking. There's no money. We have no food to eat sometimes. And the parents are fighting and so on. I said, okay, what's the impact on the planet? And then they start thinking. I said, well, all these factories that have to make stuff, they're causing pollution, right? And I said, what is pollution causing? And even 10-year-olds understand global warming. Okay, so I said, what's the answer? So I've written all this on a big board. I said, what's the answer? So this little girl said, we need to find ways of having pleasure that don't involve buying things. I said, like what? She said, going for a walk with your friends, playing with your friends, going for a walk in the woods. Right? But I said, what else can we do? And again, they were stumped, and I just wait. I don't jump in, I just wait. Because their brains are going, So all this is on a board. I said, what else could we do? And this girl was very quiet. She said, if we could find an answer to our inner boredom that makes us want to go and buy things, our restlessness, right? Then we wouldn't buy so many things, right? So I said, what's the answer to our inner boredom? And these are 10-year-olds. And after a long pause, maybe 3 minutes, she said, if I just stay with it, it goes away. See? Can you see the beauty of that? Because we adults haven't learned that, you see. So we have this inner restlessness. So the heart is empty. We're constantly seeking experiences and things in the world outside to make us feel good on the inside. But all pleasure is short-lived. And then it leaves us feeling empty, and that applies to relationships, things, experiences, all of that. Okay, I'll give you another example. I'm trying to give examples of how this understanding can work in practice. Do you know what I mean? And how kids have this amazing wisdom. So in another school, I said, right, so you're white, and you go inside a class, and half the kids are black and half are white. Where are you going to sit? This boy said, I'm going to sit with the white kids. I said, why? He said, these are only 10-year-olds, okay, primary school, because they're beautifully open, you know. And I said, why? And he said, because it makes me feel more comfortable. I feel relaxed. I said, what else? He said, they'll protect me. They'll understand me better. And if there's a problem. So I said, what, do you talk to the black kids? No, because I like hanging out with the white kids. This is what I'm doing. So I said, what's going to happen in 3 months? He said, there's going to be an argument. Okay. And I said, if you're a country, what's going to happen? He said, we're going to go to war. So I said, what's the answer? After a long pause, he said, we have to go out and mix with people who are different to us. You know, so children really have this answer. See? Or in another mixed group, so there's some kids with a hijab and some white kids, some brown kids, black kids, you know, like all sorts of mixed up kids. So we're talking about religious belief here, you know. So I said, if the leader of your group tells you to do something, are you going to do it? Or are you going to sit and question it? And she said, I'll just do it. I said, why? She said, nobody's asked me that question before. Right? So then I said, you know, so that's how we start talking about belief and how it divides people and our attachment to it, and, you know, and so on. So kids have so many beautiful answers. So the work we've been doing has been in schools. We've been talking to kids, seniors, high school, universities. I remember this great conversation with secondary school kids. So what do you want from your life? And all of them said, to be wealthy and famous. Sixth formers, okay? I said, why? They said, because we think it'll make us happy. I said, why aren't you happy now? And they say, happiness is really hard. And then we explore why happiness is hard. I said, but there's one thing that you haven't asked for. So we do a little, I don't know if you've seen these Mentimeter type things. You know, you ask a question and then they answer it on their phone and it comes up on the screen. So it's like a word cloud. Right? So I asked them what they wanted. They said to be wealthy and, you know, famous. And I said, why? To be happy. I said, do you know what's missing on that? Nobody had said they want to be healthy. I said, why? So you see, what we already have, we take for granted. We want the thing we don't have. You know what I mean? Right? And I said, why? So it's about this. See what I mean? It's curiosity. It's exploring this space. It's asking questions. It's so getting them to learn. So I said, why aren't you happy now? You're in the 5th richest country in the world. You've got free education. You've got food. You got what? And then, you know, because again, there's a point of learning there that the mind takes what it already has for granted and wants what it doesn't have. And it thinks its happiness lies in the thing, getting the thing it doesn't have. Right? It's another beautiful conversation with Sarah, who's 8, and this is a video I can share with you. And she said, we were talking about bullying. She's only 8, okay? I said, suppose someone tries to bully you in the playground. What are you going to do? She said, I know they're hurting inside. And I'm going to go and ask them, are you okay? Do you want to play? Because if I don't help them, they're going to go and hurt other people. And I know that they don't know what they're doing. So I said, do you think this should be taught in schools, all this stuff? She said, if everyone had this understanding, the world would be brilliant. This is an 8-year-old. So you see, we're missing a trick in the world because all the knowledge that we're teaching children is already on their phone. But we are insisting that they are successful if they can memorize and repeat it, and they're failures if they can't memorize and can't repeat it. And I ask the teachers and the parents who come to my talks, when was the last time you had to memorize a full piece of paper and repeat it in your life? Even my son, who's a doctor, he says, I don't even know the dose of a single drug. I'll look it up on the phone each and every time, unless I use it regularly. And he says, my patients don't mind. They're better rather than I'm sure. See? And all the knowledge we're stuffing in their heads is going to fade like that, right? In 3 months after an exam, what do you remember? Even the head teacher that day who was going to teach dinosaurs to these primary school kids, she said, oh, in my lunch break, I'm going to revise all about dinosaurs because, she's forgotten, obviously. So I think education is really imbalanced. We're teaching them only about the world around them, but not about themselves or how their minds work. As a result of that, the world is in a mess. This mess is of human creation. We're the only species about to destroy our own habitat, knowing that we're destroying it but not able to do anything about it. Right? We're the only species where we can do things that will hurt us, knowing it's going to hurt us, but not able to stop ourselves. Addiction is a good example. So what makes the human mind prone to addiction? See, just imagine the scale of that. In the US alone, it's a $1.5 trillion problem. This is the US Congress. Imagine if we could teach people how to avoid it. Not telling them don't take drugs, that's pointless, that doesn't work. But what makes our mind want to take it in the first place? See? So I have a friend of mine who's a human wisdom coach. So we train some coaches as part of this program. His name is Joey. He's in New Jersey. And there's a lovely interview with him on the Human Wisdom app. So he said, Manoj, when I was 13, I felt a sense of lack. I had a good family, good parents. I didn't understand why. But I started drinking and it made the pain go away. And he says that started a 30-year spiral into addiction. Short of killing somebody, I did everything else. I destroyed my life, my family's life. And if I had known what you are talking about, it would have helped me to avoid it. See, his sense of lack came from comparing himself with others, not realizing, feeling less than. See, and not understanding what to do with that. It's in your head, this pain. The only escape is alcohol or drugs. So addiction is an escape from emotional pain. It's also linked to conditioning, which is our unconscious influences, right? So I'm in a party, the kids at the corner are having a great time, laughing, and I'm sitting alone and a bit lonely. I want that. I want to escape from my loneliness, so I'll join the group. I don't want to be left out of the group, so I'll drink, I'll drug, take whatever they're doing, I want to do because I don't want to be out. I don't want to be alone. So when I ask kids, I say, why do you care so much what other people think? And they say, otherwise I'd be alone. I said, have you ever tried being alone? No. So you're afraid of something you've never tried? And they say, yeah. So this understanding is simple, but the impact in the world could be profound. Imagine if I said to you that there's something so simple that a child understands that could end all wars in the world. You'd say, Manoj, you're taking the piss, right? Because there are 37 active conflicts in the world right now. And in the last century, we humans killed 200 million of our own. We're the only species on the planet that does that. Why is that? Why are Russians and Ukrainians killing each other? Or the Jews and Israelis, or Indians and Pakistanis, or Shias and Sunnis, or the Protestants and Catholics? Why? So say this is a beautiful example. Say this is the war, peace wall in Belfast, right? I'm born on this side, I'm Catholic, you're born on that side, you're Protestant. We grow up hating each other, we never ask why. Someone from our side says, hey, go and kill Matthew. I say, yeah, give me a gun. And Matthew, someone does the same to you, but I had to kill each other. We pause and ask one simple question. Why? Why are we doing this? What's going on in our thinking to make us do this? Then you uncover this hidden process of conditioning, which is just our influences, which shape our thinking without our awareness, and yet we become attached to that. My storybook, your storybook, whatever it might be. Imagine if we see that and realize it's the same process in you and in me. Right? The same hidden process of conditioning that's made you Russian and made me Ukrainian. Right? And we're about to kill each other because of that. But deep down, we're the same human being. Why would the right hand kill the left hand? Because it's connected to the same body, right? So this understanding brings compassion. And from compassion comes love. So, 2 minutes. Let me tell you a beautiful story. So I was giving this talk to a bunch of teachers in Newcastle. And at the end, the teacher came to me and she was crying. So I said, why? She said, I started apologizing, thinking I'd upset her, She said, no, you've done something really beautiful, which has helped me forgive my parents. I said, what's that? She said, I had a boyfriend who had a different skin color to me. My parents refused to accept him, but we married anyway. But for 20 years, nobody has spoken to anyone. They've never met the grandchildren. We've not spoken to the parents. Everybody's heart is hurting. That's what the words she used. But she said, today I've learned something that has helped me to forgive them. And I said, what's that? She said, they were not aware of their conditioning influences after the war, which shaped their thoughts and opinions and beliefs. Right? But I am the same because my opinions and beliefs come from my conditioning influences. And I'm not aware of it either. Right? So it's the same process in them and in me. And it's that deeper understanding that brings compassion. And from that compassion can come love. And this love can heal the divisions of the world. See? So I hope that's given you a flavor of what we're trying to do and the practical examples of how beautifully these children take this on board and they never forget. So I spoke to a group of children in Leeds about fear. And again, it's recorded. And I said, what's the root cause of fear? And this young girl with freckles said, it's just your imagination playing up. And then I went back 4 months later to talk to the same kids. And I said, we had that chat 4 months ago. What difference did it make? And this boy said, my grandfather died. He's only 10. And I became frightened that my parents would die too. But then I remembered our conversation that my fear is just my imagination playing up. And my fear went away. So just from a single conversation, it continued to have this impact on these children months and months later. So my mission and passion is to bring this understanding of ourselves and how our minds work, not according to me or a book. It comes from actually looking and learning about yourself. But the more we look at ourselves, we realize Manoj is the same as Matthew, the same as Ari and Alessandro. We're wired in the same way deep down. From that understanding comes compassion, love, goodness. And the peace and happiness we seek in the world outside actually can be found inside. So on the outside, your life can be ordinary. Gardener, bus driver, bin man, cook. But on the inside, you can be extraordinary. See, if you live with this deeper self-understanding. So on the basis of this, we created the Human Wisdom app, and we could talk about that later. But it's really got all the ingredients that I've been talking about today, and it helps everyone go on their own journey of learning and applying that learning to their life. So we built one for adults, one for teenagers is being built now, and we've got another one coming for little children under 11, based on the same core understanding. We've engaged with some story writers around the world. We've created a set of characters in a forest with a wise owl and all of that. And for the teenagers, we've got a school. It's a multicultural, it's an international school. So all the stories are going to be set in this international school. And that's where all this, will bring all these things out. But children are beautiful. And I think we are torturing them with our current education system. And we really need to do better. By the way, we're not saying knowledge doesn't have its place. It absolutely has its place. But I think wisdom needs to be on par or alongside what we're doing. And I'd love to engage with your community to see what are the opportunities that may exist to work with young people at scale. So we're building something that can be taken on at scale, you see. And because it's new, this idea is it's for a lot of people, it's very new. It feels strange. And because it feels strange, there's an initial resistance. But when you explain to people, it's the Human Wisdom Project. It's not the Manoj Krishna Project or the Bible Society or the Quran. It's the Human Wisdom Project. Every human being can contribute to it, and every human being can benefit from it. It's like looking at the moon together. I may point out something, but you are only 10, you start looking. You can also learn and share what you're learning. See? So I learn from the 10-year-olds. See, it's a process of learning, a shared sense of learning. So it's very scientific. It's just observing the way things are. But the observation and learning brings the work of change and transformation. And of course, those who are religious or spiritually minded, this work connects you. It's the bridge between your faith and your beliefs and making that a reality in your life. Because this wisdom helps you understand what gets in the way of being loving, of being kind, of being generous, and all of those things. See? So the sense of sacred, the Quakers said it's inside you, but you go to every tradition in the world, they have the mystics who say, God's inside you. It's not out in the temples or churches or synagogues of the world. It's in us. It's in each human heart. And it doesn't matter which tradition you go to, whether you Meister Eckhart in the Catholic Church, or I'm sure the Jewish tradition has its own mystics, Ari, you'll know more about it than me. But the Sufis and the Vedanta and so on. But it all starts the same process of inquiry. So there's only 3 simple steps to inquiry, to this journey, to begin this journey. Step 1 is to observe what's going on. Say, I'm jealous. Step 2, to accept that it's coming from me. I take ownership of that. Step 3, ask a question. Why? What's going on in my thinking to make me feel this way? Why do I want to kill somebody I've never met? Why do I want more and more? I'm never satisfied. Why do I get bored so easily? Or whatever the question might be. So it's this asking the right question. That's the key. And the question is what opens the door to wisdom. And if we can bring this to every child in the world, we can help transform their lives and the future of humanity. It's really simple. So I'd love to partner with whoever's interested in what we're doing and see what we can do in the world together, Cool. That's me done. I'm going to stop talking.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm literally overwhelmed and I'm quite speechless. I think what we'll do is we'll just open some space, Manoj, as well, just for any questions in the group. I'm going to take a few minutes to compose myself because there's so much I'd love to say to you, and I'd love to speak with you offline about some of the work that we do as well. But is there anybody on the call at the moment that would like to ask Manoj any questions directly? I can see Harry's there. He's ready to go.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, if you could just briefly share how you came to this realization, because you entered immediately into, the human wisdom. But what happened to you that you came up with this? That's one question. And the other one, if you can describe more concretely what you're doing now, what you're trying to do, what is your main challenges, and then maybe this group of people, we can see how we potentially can support this beautiful work and collaborate.
Thank you. How did I come to it? I didn't invent it, by the way, Harry. It's as old as the hills. Each person comes upon it and calls it their own, finds a different way of expressing it. But once you drink the water, it's the same water that's been drunk for thousands of years. And it just comes from being curious. I remember when I was 18-year-old, I was feeling lonely. I said, why am I feeling lonely? I'm surrounded by so many people. I've got a loving family. Why am I lonely? And I went to, how when you're young, you go everywhere to look for answers. There are none. Everyone gives you some theory or some belief to follow, but it doesn't quench your thirst. So it's that curiosity that's kept you going. And of course, I read widely, and there are many people I can name who, people could go and read, who have been following this road before. But here's the secret. Here's 1,000 books that tell you what water tastes like. And here's a glass of water. We humans are content to read the books, repeat the books, become PhD scholars in the books. It's my book versus your book. We kill each other. Human wisdom is saying, drink the water. We'll show you how. Once you drink it, you realize it's the same water that every human is drinking. Understand, the spring is the same. So that's really where my journey began. I had all this stuff in my head, but it wasn't changing my heart. But when you begin to actually look and learn about yourself, that's when the change occurs. So that's why the Human Wisdom program we've created is pushing people to learn about themselves, to actually look at what they are, who they are, what's happening in their own mind. And it's that journey of learning about ourselves as we are, without judgment, that brings transformation.